This is surprisingly comfortable. Hey there, guys, and welcome back to the garage. I'm Fat Jigan, aka Uncle Frank, and in today's video, I'm going to be sitting back in my pretty squeaky chair, relaxing and having a little conversation with all of you guys about demand, not supply, and the idea that something could not have demand. You see, originally this video was going to be talking about misprints, factory errors, miscuts, crimped cards, wrong art, etc. And I was going to talk about how there are people out there who genuinely believe that those are damaged cards that have low collector value, and that only specific corners of the market would be at all interested in them. And that is true for the most part. There is I think, specific kind of collector who wants to go out of the way to get specific error cards. However, as I was talking about that, I started thinking to myself that, that doesn't just apply to misprints and miscut cards. It actually applies to collectibles as a whole because, believe it or not, collecting isn't universal, nor is everybody's opinions and desires and interests in the hobby, the medium, etc. So instead of just talking about misprints, which I was going to go through this little stack of Yu-Gi-Oh! Misprints I have here. I've got some wrong aligned names. I've got some, hard to show it there, some crimped cards. This one might be a bit better. Crimped cards. Doesn't really show up on the camera that well. This one also won't show up well, but this is like a slightly too thick card, so it's like a wrong cut from the factory. So I was just going to talk about misprints today, but instead I want to talk about collectibles in general and the fact that no collectible is truly worthless. Yeah, we've talked about this before about how even dead collectibles do have fans, but I want to go a bit more in depth about the idea that everything does have a price. It's just how much effort are you, the potential seller, looking to put in to find someone who's willing to pay that right price. Because yeah, we've talked before about how even Beanie Babies have demand out there on the market. But will that demand meet supply in a way that is profitable? Probably not for the vast majority of Beanie Babies, unless you, the potential Beanie Baby seller, happens to just stumble upon the one guy who's looking for exactly the Beanie Babies you have and is willing to meet you somewhere when it comes to pricing. It's not very common. Part of the reason TCG markets work as they do is because there's loads of people looking for these cards and loads of people who have these cards and market prices in the middle that they're all kind of willing to work with and negotiate on. Yeah, there's some unreasonable individuals out there, especially when it comes to the world of grading. But for the most part of why the TCG market works is because there is a general understood price tag for most of these cards, and there's a large enough swathe of people looking for them. That kind of peters out, though, once you get to some of the less popular TCGs and to other collectibles that are maybe not dead, but a bit more obscure, a bit more niche, Figurine collecting, VHS collecting. There are people out there who are super duper into collecting VHS tapes. Pog collecting, that's a thing out there, believe it or not. And so much more. If you name a collectibles category, it doesn't matter what it is, Mighty Beans or I forget the name of those little creepy, they were like little plastic figurines. They fit in your hand. McDonald's had a bunch of them. They looked like little blobby starfish. I'm trying to remember what they were. They have a bunch of interesting designs. Man, it's eluding me. But if you can name a collectible or a game or a toy from the 70s, 80s, or 90s, you can probably find a collector for that item. It's just, some are going to be harder to find a buyer for than others. And the same is true on the buying end as well. If you're looking for a particular kind of collectible, especially a more niche collectible, finding a seller for that collectible might be a bit harder, especially if it's for an unestablished market. We in the TCG industry are kind of spoiled. TCG Player is perfectly designed for a lot of, not all, not even most, a lot of TCGs are readily available there, which makes the effort of buying and selling them pretty easy, pretty convenient. And even if it weren't there, eBay has a pretty extensive catalog of cross references, price comparisons, etc., for most TCGs out there. Again, it's not extensive, but it is there. And then there are more niche sites out there dedicated to, at the very least, cataloging, if nothing else, the various card games. But the same is not necessarily true for a lot of other collectibles out there: VHS tapes, toys, limited edition DVDs, etc. Some of these things do have websites telling you exactly what you're looking for, how to collect it, and what the prices you can expect. But others, it's a pain to track things down, and I can say that as a fan of both Code Lyoko and Witch, which the cartoon, not what was the name of that movie? Was it just Witch? Doesn't matter. I'm getting off topic. Finding like old toys for that, or gargoyles, or mummies alive. It's not exactly easy hunting some of that stuff down, especially if it's only ever had like one obscure wave back in like '98 or whatever. But yeah, but for even more obscure things, again, there's toys that I'm struggling to even remember the name of that genuinely had collectability once upon a time. And God forbid you're someone who wants to go out of your way to collect all of them, because finding a seller, finding the right price for it is going to be hard. And God forbid if you're someone who just happens to have it, because now you got to find a buyer and you got to find comparable prices, and the entire thing is just much less convenient than TCG cards. To say nothing of the shipping thing. TCG cards, part of why I like card games so much is how easy it is to move them. You take a card, you slap it in a sleeve, a top loader, throw it in a plain white envelope, and it's good to go. You cannot do the same for little figurines, or I have like a vintage life counter over here. I want to talk about it, but who knows when I'm ever going to have a chance to discuss this thing. This is one of those little vintage MTG life counters. It goes up to 40 and it clicks around from Reaper Miniatures back in the day. I can't ship this in a little box the same way that I could easily ship out a card. It's much cheaper to send out a card. Or, I don't know, plushies, etc. Cards are easy to send out. Cards are easy to deal with. Cards are easy to catalog, list, etc. There's worlds of difference between doing cards and doing something else. Even comic books, which is a very common, very popular collectible, like it or not, even comic books are way more difficult to do than cards, because just the volume necessary. They're much larger, cost more to ship. They need a bit more protection because how frail they are. The condition matters much more for comic book collectors than it does for card collectors, especially when you're working with multiple pages rather than just one piece of cardboard. And those comics are flimsy as hell. Comics are flimsy fuckers. But yeah. So originally I was just going to talk about how everything has a market, but I think it's a more important thing to understand that while everything has a market, is that market something that's going to be worth it to you to engage with, buy into, sell into, etc.? Because, yeah, I deal with bulk all the time, and I've been told and I've experienced how tedious it can be, how time-consuming it can be. There are things out there that I would definitely find not worth it to engage in, just because, boy howdy, would it be hard to track down the right buyer for some of the things that I could be doing instead of card games. Again, pre-painted miniatures for D&D or Pathfinder. That's not exactly an easy market to engage in, I would suspect. I'm sure there's profit there. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure that if you are engaging in that hobby, if you're one of the handful of people who's moving that stuff, it's probably profitable. But is it worth it? I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. That would be an up to you thing. You, the individual contemplating it, would have to look at the math, look at how easy it is to send stuff out, and go, yeah, I can do that, or nah, it's not for me. So yeah, just be aware of the convenience of the world we live in. The convenience of the hobby we engage in, I should say. And how it could be much more difficult. How, not maybe more difficult, but more time-consuming to engage with some other hobbies. And thinking about this just makes me have just a bit more respect for those people who do engage full time, in fact, in things like miniatures, VHS tapes, etc. Because every hobby has a buyer. How easy is it to find that buyer? I don't know. Probably not very. But anyway, that's all I wanted to talk about today, kiddos. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment down below if you agree with me, disagree with me, or think I am absolutely crazy for wearing a hat like this, all cool and mysterious like. Yeah. Check out the Discord. Check out the Patreon. Check out the TCG Player store linked below. I do buy and sell cards. I don't just talk about them. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you next time. Ciao.